Welcome to another episode of the Dreams to Reality podcast. And as you can see already, we are out of the studios in my office. And yes, we are here in Suffolk at Ben Coomber's house, who is my very, very special guest. We do actually have him here. But with that said, thank you for being a part of this podcast. How are you doing today, Ben?
Dude, I was waiting for the call. Why did it take so long?
I live 4 hours away. 4 hours away. All jokes aside, thank you for inviting us into your house to do this podcast. You got a lovely house, and the first thing I said to you, or one of the first things, is your garden. You got a massive garden. How do you keep up with it?
I don't. That's the short. I mow the lawn. That's it. The rest is just wild. Got a natural garden.
Natural garden. I'm really, really looking forward to this podcast today. There's many things I want to ask you. Recently, I was on your podcast and we basically just had to be quiet and cut it short because food was coming. But when I say cut it short, we still went on for well over an hour. So hopefully there's going to be many things we're going to not just recover, but really dive in a lot deeper. And there's a lot of questions I have actually about your story, which I really want to dive into. But with that said, can you tell people what you do, who you are, and then we're going to really get into how you started?
Yeah, so my industry is the health and fitness space. I'm primarily a nutritionist, or that's what I talk about a lot. I love talking about mindset as well. Love talking about personal development, which I think is how you and me kind of really connected. Yep. And we like developing ourselves. We like asking better questions of ourselves. And I'm also a personal trainer. I'm also a strength and conditioning coach, but I really love the nutrition, the lifestyle, the mindset space. And that all came from me starting off as an obese teenager. Had to go on a journey of, getting healthy, getting fit. It was a problematic journey. And there was a couple of moments that really unlocked my potential, and I got results really quickly. So I struggled with my weight for a long time, struggled with my health, and then I lost 4 stone in 4 months. And it was like that rapid transformation of, it just basically showed me what's possible with the human body, that if you really apply the right tools consistently with effort, focus, you can get incredible, insane results. And at the time I was going to go and follow a career in acting, and I thought, do you know what? I'm kind of losing the passion for that. I'm going to go into the health and fitness space. And I did develop that, trained as a nutritionist and a coach and a masseuse, and then went to uni, studied at uni, started my first business at uni in my second year in my bedroom, joined the enterprise center, started to go through the kind of early learnings of business while I was in essentially a safe environment. I was in my student days. I could make the mistakes. Started a business, then started another one because I screwed that one up plenty, and haven't looked back since. I've been self-employed ever since I was 20, and now I have a supplement company, a nutrition education company. I do a lot of speaking like you. I've got a big mouth, so I've got my own podcast, do a lot on social media, and try and wake up passionately every day to try and teach and inspire other people to do awesome things.
Awesome. So let's bring it back a little bit. You said you was an obese teenager.
Yep.
What age did you realise you was obese? You were bigger than people around you, and how long did that last for? How long would you say you was obese for?
It's probably mid-teen years I started to really pile on the weight, and that was because I went to I was very lucky. I went to a boarding school, private education, and I only got into private education because my mum got a job at the school, which essentially means we got in cheap. My family weren't wealthy. We didn't have the money to pay private school fees, so I'm very lucky. But when you're in a private school, you can eat what you want. The food's just there. It's buffet style, basically. So I ate like any young kid was. Didn't have an off switch. Really enjoyed food. Probably quite not very confident as a kid. So probably took more pleasure in food than I maybe should have. And 15, 16, 17 really started to pile on the weight. Became a lot more self-conscious of it. I remember around 16 and periodically tried some diets. But it's hard at school. It is just tough.
But was you given the right information about nutrition and stuff when you was that age? Did you know eating the food you was eating ultimately was going to lead you to being fat, or did you not really think about it? Because when you're younger, obviously you can sometimes get away with eating more because you're so active, you're in a soft play, you're running around, you're doing sports. Did you do sports actually when you was in school?
Yeah, constantly, every day. So I played at least an hour or two of sports. I wasn't an inactive kid. We walked everywhere. The school was massive, so to get from one lesson to the other, it was like a 10-minute walk. So I wasn't inactive by any stretch of the imagination. I just ate too much.
Too many calories.
A lot of chips, a lot of white bread, a lot of cheese, like all the stuff that you love as a kid that you can, if it's there on a plate, you're just gonna dive in and help yourself.
Yeah, of course.
So information wise, I was only a kid. My mum was a vegetarian, so my mum was always health aware.
Okay.
And we ate relatively well at home, but at school I just got the opportunity to eat too much. So I remember when I was younger, I tried a couple of diets. I remember doing a men's health diet of a magazine once, and again, it didn't talk about calories. So I think calories in young people is a dangerous bit of information, because if it's not done in the right way, people can quickly become obsessive about calorie counting and like, I literally can't eat that. But I just needed a greater awareness. Like having a main meal with 2 chip butties on the side probably wasn't a great idea. The main meal was probably fine and probably totally adequate for my needs, but because I was allowed to have it, I did.
So at what point did you lose the 4 stone in 4 months?
Literally,
was that in school, or was that when you went to university?
No, I left school. So I left school and I just looked at myself and I said, how successful do I want to be in my life? And I didn't feel like I'd be as successful as my potential was with being overweight. Having the level of confidence that I did, the health issues that I did. So I started to run, literally laces on, no gym, just started to run, started to do some body weight exercises, started to eat better, or what I thought was better, and just wasn't losing any weight. And happened to join a gym, fell in the hands of a good trainer. He was like, look, read this book, it's awesome. It's called How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. So this was, like 13, 14 years ago now. Read the book from cover to cover in a week, applied the information straight away. I mean, I was highly driven, I knew what I wanted, and that information, and starting to do a bit of weight training and stuff, lost 4 stone in 4 months.
So how did that affect your relationship with potentially partners, girlfriends, other going out?
I became more confident. I was very, I'll just say I was unsuccessful with women before I lost weight, because I just didn't feel in a place where I'd be like, I would be attractive to another person. So, once I lost the weight, I became more confident. When I started weight training, weight training for a guy, I think is a good thing. I've only seen positive things. I like having more muscle mass than average. And I think the opposite sex quite often find, a strong male as an attractive thing. So I only saw benefit. It was better from 18 onwards.
Would you say the fact that you've been through obesity, you've experienced those type of insecurities, that makes you a better coach today?
100%.
That makes you understand your clients better, and you also have a complete better understanding of what people want because you've experienced it. It's not just something you read in a book.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm a coach. I draw a different example. I'm a nutrition coach, and I quite often teach about vegan nutrition, plant-based nutrition, alternative diets, and I know a lot about it, but I've never been through it for a prolonged period of time. So this January...
But you're doing it, I've seen.
I'm doing it right now. I'm doing a vegan diet. And even as I got into a week, I was like, oh my God, like this bit of the diet is tough. And if I'd never have been through that, I wouldn't have known firsthand the difficulties that my clients going through by making that lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like if you are a high level athletic coach, if you've never been an athlete yourself, you're going to struggle to be or understand at that level. So I'm not saying you can't be a good coach,
because some of the best
gives you the edge.
Yeah.
Gives you the edge because you understand it. You have complete compassion for that person. Now, at the elite level of sport, for example, it's very easy to be the hard line coach. Here's your plan. You've got to do it, because athletes are highly motivated. But when you're looking at like almost the general population that want to change, you've got to have massive levels of compassion. I remember my last rugby coach, he was a dictator, came in, was like, this is how we're going to do it. And it didn't work for our rugby team because we weren't elite athletes.
No.
We were just people that played for fun, wanted to develop. Whereas we had a new coach and he was a bit more compassionate, took time to understand us, took time to develop us, and we flourished as a team.
Yeah.
We won the league, we went up.
Show off, okay. Yeah. Fantastic points what you're making there. I think it really means a lot and it really says a lot. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why the work I do in school really resonates with the people I'm working with. So I think it's good to have an understanding of the people you're working with and really trying to help them and support. And if you've been through that yourself, then you've got probably a deeper understanding, really. But with that said, you went to university. What did you study at uni?
Sports performance and coaching.
Okay. What uni?
Hull.
And are you from...
I'm from Ipswich, Suffolk.
Okay,
so
cool.
It was a long way away.
Was that a big step for you to move away?
No, because I'd been at private school and my dad was in the military, so we always moved quite a lot. So kind of change is kind of normal for me. I'm cool with it, and I did genuinely want to move away from home. I wanted to have the experience of being completely unsupported, because I've been supported my whole life.
Wow.
And I was like, if I'm going to learn the real world, because when I left school at 18, I'd never had a real job.
Yeah.
I'd never lived in, like, I'm going to describe it, the real world. So I was like, I'm just going to go out and get a job, and I'm going to live and pay for my own rent and food and all the rest of it. Because I thought, if I'm going to be an adult, I need to put myself into an adult environment.
Not many people already think like that, do they?
Well, you've got a choice.
When you're in your comfort zone and you could get things paid for you, you don't have to really put yourself out there and kind of suffer in a way. I guess a lot of people, they choose the comfort zone. But at this age, how old was you when you went to uni?
21.
So at being 20, 21, making that decision to go to university, and okay, you could have went to the University of Suffolk, for example, or a uni close by, but instead you took that leap. And I know quite a lot of people do that, but it was interesting to hear your perspective of why you've done that and your self-awareness. It really at such a young age to actually understand that, okay, I went to boarding school, everything was done for me essentially. Okay, you still had to work hard, but now you're going to put yourself out into the real world. So when did it feel like the real world for you?
So I'll say why I think that was probably easier or different for me. So when you're at boarding school, you're surrounded by your mates, but when the whistle goes at the end of the school year, all your mates leave. Like you're on your own. So I had about 2 or 3 mates that lived locally. Now the reason why I think that's important is like where from you're from, like Bristol area. Like if you go to a local school, all your friend group, they live in like an hour. You know, the radius.
Not
right?
even an hour, 10-minute walk.
Yeah, that's what I meant, like a mile's radius. And that means that even when school's finished, like your social life is constantly buzzing.
True.
We're going out to Nando's at the weekend. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like I never had that. So actually when school stopped, I stopped and I just sat there and reflected.
Wow.
So what kids, young people, anyone needs to do is you need to have these periods in your life where you just remove yourself from your environment and getting caught up in your environment and just be present and be like, right, hang on a second, let's do almost like a life audit. Where am I at? What am I doing? Am I happy? What am I doing in 6 months' time? Like, this job that I'm doing, why am I doing it? Is it serving me? Is it a short game, medium or long-term career choice? And because I got dumped in like the real world like overnight, I just became very reflective very quickly and just asked myself very hard questions and was like, right, let's go get a job. Let's find a new group of friends. Let's get a weekend job so I can meet chicks in a bar. Like I made all these decisions because I was forced to almost make them. So I'm not saying I'm in a unique situation, but people have to learn about why that happened for me and put themselves into that environment. Environment dictates success, period. Like, you know, the people that I know now will continue to serve me well in my business environment, my personal environment, everything. So if anyone is watching this right now, you've got to stand back and go, my environment right now, am I happy with it? Is it serving my purpose? And you got to make some hard decisions.
Can you dive a little bit more into the environment? Because obviously there's a lot of cliche sayings. You lie down with dogs, you come up with fleas. All of these different sayings. And we used to have a saying, only fly with eagles. Whether logically that makes sense or not, it's just about being around people who are doing something, people who have goals, people who have dreams. Why is that important to be around people who are pushing you, challenging you. They got goals, they got dreams. And how can that affect you in a positive way? Or how can a bad friend group or whatever affect you in a negative way? Because we all see it, because we're one keys to us as humans. We want to be a part of something. We want to be related to something. We want to be a part of a group and a community. But why is that community, why is it essential? We've picked that community wisely, essentially. Why is that?
So whatever environment you're in, you'll start to pick up cues and energy and sayings and behaviors and habits. So if you're in, a bit of a rough area, for example, and, maybe a little bit of light crime, a little bit of violence, all that kind of stuff is the norm, then your behavior and your beliefs and your values around, let's say, mild forms of crime or, poor behavior, it kind of normalizes it. And that's a problem over time. And this is why we see pockets of the UK or any communities where all of this stuff it never improves. You're just in this constant cycle of So when I was at Hull University, there was a housing estate that was notorious for drugs and crime and all the rest of it. But the problem is people died and people were born and they stayed in that ecosystem. So the ecosystem never had changed because that was their environment. So when I left school, I started to say, well, what environment do I want to be in? Like right now, every day, I'm constantly asking myself, am I in the right environment? Like the sports team do I play for? Do I enjoy the people I'm playing with? Am I getting enough out of it? The gym that I go to, do I like the gym? Does it inspire me? The podcasts I listen to, do I get inspired by that? The books that I'm reading, do they educate me or do they annoy me? Is my relationship positive or negative? Does it anger me more than it fulfills me? The TV that I'm watching, does it inspire me or does it make me laugh or does it relax me? My home environment, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel secure?
So much self-awareness. That's just... Yeah.
But if you spend time asking yourselves these questions, you're able to have the time to work on your self-awareness. Like mindfulness has been proven to be as effective as like so many drugs or therapy and all this kind of stuff. But no one's spending time with themselves, asking themselves hard questions, because we're getting up, we're on social media, we're going to work, we're going to school, then we're going to meet friends. And actually, we're constantly being mentally stimulated. And if that's happening, and you're happy with that, that's fine. But if you're unhappy and you're not aware of all the things that you're doing every day, you've got to stand back and go, I haven't even had half an hour to myself today to think about what I might do later or tomorrow, or that I'm unhappy or I'm sad or I'm depressed or I'm angry. So mindfulness and self-awareness is just it's a fundamental life skill.
I'm just trying to... Because you said a lot then, but good stuff, and it's interesting what you said about the cycle. You talked about obviously some say deprived areas and stuff like that, and there's one line in the song, it's not completely accurate, but it's the abused becomes the abuser. And it's kind of like the cycle of life, and how many kind of traits do we pick up from our parents, how much did they pick up from their parents, and so on and so forth, and how long does that cycle really last for? So like for me, I was the first one in my family to ever go to university, and then maybe my kids in the future might go to university because they've seen it been done. But of course, that because there is a cycle, it doesn't mean that cycle can't be broken. But sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult. But from what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong, when you become more self-aware of that, who you're around, what you're constantly doing, what you're constantly thinking about, all the information you're consuming, the more you think about that and the more you are aware of that and how it makes you feel, the easier it is to kind of break out of that cycle, the easier it is to make the changes you want to make. Which I think is really good, and especially with a lot of places I go into, a lot of schools, colleges, even prisons and stuff, I think that what you said then is vital. But then that comes back down to, I guess, responsibility. And a lot of people shy away from taking responsibility. I don't feel like it's not a bad thing if you've done something wrong. It's just whether you can own up to and actually take full responsibility for that. So to become fully self-aware, you have to, I guess, take responsibility. How do you do that? Because sometimes I still don't do it now.
Yeah.
We all don't. It's easier to point a finger at somebody else and play the blame game, but sometimes we just have to point it at ourselves, really.
Sure. So probably one of my earlier character traits that I developed was being quite selfish. And I picked that up from, I would say, my dad. My dad was kind of selfish by nature. And I think men are naturally, as a general rule of thumb, more selfish than females. Females will generally give a lot more time to other people. And that's because I think females are more of a natural carer. That's quite often their role, or has been for a long time in society. They're the one that gives birth to the child, looks after the child, while the man might go out and, collect fire, get food, earn pennies, that kind of thing. So I picked up that early character trait, and it probably made me quite driven early on as a result of some other things that happened in my childhood. But I was able to have the self-awareness to see when that selfish behaviour was positive and both negative in my environment. So we all have a responsibility to the people around us, but first and foremost, fundamentally, at a basic biological human nature level, we have a responsibility to ourselves. So if we can't be the best version of ourselves, we can't be the best version of ourselves to other people. So if I'm not in a good place, I'm not happy, I'm strong, I'm fulfilled, I'm going to be a crap husband to my wife. And the same for my wife to me. And if I'm not in a good place, I'm not going to be able to give good quality time to other people in my friend environment or my family environment. And the thing why that's important, and to realise that, is otherwise you'll keep getting swept up in this cycle and the expectation of others. So when let's say someone's in an environment and there might be areas or parts of their family they find negative. We see it all the time. Oh, I don't really like that family member.
Yeah.
You do have to strategically try and avoid too much contact with that family member, because you know it's negative for you. And the best story I ever heard on this is
that's amazing.
A friend of mine called Jason Graystone. He's sort of a financial coach. Got a lot of time for this guy, and I interviewed him on my podcast, and he told me about his story. And he grew up in a very rough environment, crime, like all sorts of stuff, like bad stuff. And he was like, I saw that. The age of 16, I saw that. And I sat there at 16 and went, okay, where am I going to be in 25 years' time? Probably going to be in some kind of crime. I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to follow the patterns that I'm being exposed to every day. And he said, I left home. I just walked away from my environment. And that does take immense strength.
Of course.
But he had to sit there and say, I'm projecting 7 years forward. Where am I going to be? Am I going to be happy? No, I'm probably going to be in jail. Maybe you've taken drugs. Maybe you've stole some stuff.
Yeah.
And he had the strength. And he knew that the next 2 to 3 years were going to be tough. Probably living in a non-optimal environment, working a crappy job. But he said, okay, I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And then I know after that I'll probably get a better job and a better job. And then hopefully I'll find a girlfriend and, my life will move. And you've got to sit there right now, wherever you're at, saying, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? And is my environment, my actions going to get me to that place? Well, you've got to change now. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I do that sometimes in the workshops I do. I talk about character. So I go in and I ask them, I say, what job do you want to do? They say a particular job, and I say, what 10 characteristics do you need to do that job, do you think? They write down 10 characteristics. Tick how many of these characteristics you display on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, and they tick 2 or 3 out of 10. I said, so you think you're just going to walk into this job? You're competing then with other people, not just people in your school or college, but other people who are ticking 8 or 9 of these. So it's all about character, and as we know, it's not all about grades and just all about results. It is about your character. At 16 years old, just like your friend you just mentioned, being self-aware and having that vision, having that plan for the next 5 to 7 years, I think is crucial, because it's like using a tool. I think I mentioned it on your podcast. If you can see a bigger purpose and then bring it back down to now, you can use what you're doing now as a tool to get you to where you want to get to. Just like the same way a car mechanic would use a tool to fix the car to get the job done, you can use school as a tool to get that done, basically, so you can go on to do whatever you want to do next. Same as nutrition. Okay, if you master your Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, that's the tool, and then Thursday, Friday becomes easier, or whatever, if that kind of makes sense.
So what's interesting with that is young people have to understand that we live in a completely different world now to 5 years ago, drastically different to 15 years ago, hugely different to 30 years ago. So when my dad, for example, went to university, which he did, you go to university, you get a good degree, you get a graduate program, you get a great career. That doesn't happen anymore in
No.
many industries. So I went to university. There was something like 140 people in my cohort. We all got a sports science degree. And I now know of 4 people that are in our industry. Because they all went into that thinking, I'll get a sports science degree and then I'll be working with Manchester United Football Club and it'll all be great. And I'm like, none of these people did internships or work experience. None of them got jobs on the side. None of them got additional qualifications. None of them thought to specialise in something really specific from a master's. So there's 140 people, and let's say there's 1,000 jobs. But those 140 people are now being replicated in universities all over the UK. So for 1,000 jobs, there's maybe 20,000 people to choose from.
Wow.
I'm like, what are you going to do to separate yourselves?
Wow.
A degree isn't enough. In fact, we could probably say a master's isn't enough anymore.
No.
And that's why, like in my business, I employ 6 full-time members of staff. And on paper, I'll be honest, I have no idea how qualified my staff members are. Absolutely no idea. One of them, because a qualification is important for what he does, but all of my members of staff have the will to be better every day.
How do you interview for that? How do you see that?
You don't interview for it.
Okay, explain.
So when I, as a business owner or leader, looks for someone else to join my business or company, I basically program my subconscious to be aware of the people in my environments that would fit a job role. So I'll give you an example. The last member of staff that I've just employed is a kind of part-time PA, media and PR assistant for my personal work. So they work with me on a daily basis, media, content, interviews, that kind of stuff.
The one who sent, after the podcast, they sent the picture to me. And
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so what I did is I started to be present and self-aware and say, right, I need a person in my life that is highly organised, motivated, enjoys what I do, and finds me an inspiring individual, because that's important.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Why work for someone you're not inspired by? You're just doing a job. You're not developing.
True. No.
Like, you could be working at a McDonald's, but have such an inspiring manager that asks more of you every day. That's a good thing. That job at McDonald's is going to lead you forward, even though, because it's not McDonald's that's the environment that's the problem. It's the people in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said to myself, I need this person in my life. And literally 10 days later, I was at an event and this girl bundled up to me. She's in our community. And I just started talking to her. And literally within 15 seconds, I was like, this lady's going to be my PA. And, is going to be on our books. And in a couple of weeks' time, we started to have a chat. We brought her on board, kind of tested her out a little bit. And then she came on board and she started doing 20 hours a week. For me, that's how I look to recruit my staff, because you're going to pick up on their energy.
Yeah.
But I spend time with myself saying, what do I want to look for in this person? I want someone that's conscientious, well organised, humble, easy to talk to. So I think about the character traits. For example, in the future, I might recruit like a business development manager or sales manager into our business when we look to expand some of our stuff internationally. And I have to then sit there and say, well, what do I want this person to be? I probably want them to be quite forthright in their opinion, but also a good communicator, quite bullish, good at taking maybe no for an answer when some people would, say yes. So the character would be different for that role. And I'd then start to say to myself, right, I'm looking for this person, and I might turn up to an event, have a chat on the phone to someone, have an interaction on social media that then leads to, a couple of voice notes or something. And I'm like, this person, and I've already had that interaction, but I started to think about it. So that's how I recruit people into my business. And on the paper, on paper, cool. But if they've got the will to be great at that job, I know they're going to be successful at that job.
Wow. So when I want to we talked a little bit about it, but I want to go through university. When was the first time you kind of started doing your academy, your nutrition side of things? And then how long did that happen before you decided to do... Actually, let's talk about your podcast first.
Okay.
When did you start your podcast?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Ben Coomber Radio.
Yep.
Okay, so I think I said it on your podcast, but how I know Ben and how I heard of you was literally when I was working a part-time job. I was like a full-time job over the summer. I talk about this all the time, but I was at the university, I was going around, I was checking rooms, and at this point I was listening to your podcast. And at this point it wasn't just for the nutrition side of things, it was more just because of the mindset, the business element of things, because you literally speak about absolutely everything, and I found that intriguing. And when I started to obviously build my career, I remember I reached out to you, we had a bit of communication, but then a couple of years after, I think once you've seen that I was consistent in what I was doing, then we started to actually communicate on a more regular basis, and obviously I came and then we kind of had some food and stuff and just caught up, and from that point forward we've got quite a good relationship. So I've not known you from the beginning, I've probably known you from the last 2 years or so, but why did you start the podcast? Obviously we're doing this podcast, but it's kind of, I guess, a bit late in the game when you started it, when maybe podcast wasn't really a thing. I don't know, why did you start it?
Started it because I wanted to get my message out there more. I knew I had an ability to speak, and I was very passionate about what I did. I was trying to engage in a lot of personal development myself. So outside of, things like university and stuff, I was like, what books should I be reading? What other resources are out there? And I started to see that a lot of the American health and fitness professionals were getting into this podcasting thing. And I was like, well, how many people in the UK are doing this? And I was like, kind of no one's really. It's kind of more of an American thing, because it was started by Apple and iTunes podcast. And I thought, go on, I'll have a crack. So just got a £40 microphone and just fired it up, and felt my way through it. The first 30-40 episodes were pretty shoddy, and then people really caught onto it. Like, my core user base started to listen, and then I kind of rode the wave of podcasting getting quite popular. I hit number one. The podcast went really well, and today it still acts as a primary medium for me to communicate my message. And I think people, there's a lot of people that always want to get under the surface. Social media is great, nice photos, good
highlight
memes, but it's the highlight reel. So like this podcast right now, if people want to know what's under me, like what's inside, what's driving me, podcast is an amazing way to do it. Now, coming back to your point about our initial interaction, I think this is cool because, in the world that we live in right now, we live in a world of absolute opportunity. Anyone can do anything that they want. If you love drawing cartoons, you can make a career out of it. List yourself on Fiverr or 99designs.com, and you could be in front of a worldwide audience of people that make cartoons. You could make furniture, you can make labels, beer mats, whatever you want. We're in a connected, internet-driven world. And when you reach out to someone, maybe I'll just say in my position, I don't want to sound arrogant.
No, but at this point,
I've been doing what I've been doing
so
for a while.
Let's be honest, right? So at this point, you've been on magazines, you've done a bit on TV, your platform is big. Obviously, it's much bigger now, but at that time, I had about 300 likes on my fan page, and I was doing what I was doing, but I wasn't doing it at the level I was doing now. So I was just a random person who was reaching out to you, I guess.
And that's the thing. So, you might, there might be someone young listening and watching to this, and they reach out to you, and they've got 400 people on their Instagram. They're like, hey Cam, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I've started this.
All the time.
Like, it would be awesome to collaborate with you. And you're going to go, that's nice, mate, but...
Yeah, I know. How do you do that? I feel like I'm kind of selling out.
Okay, so this is the reality of the message. You've been doing what you've been doing for 3 months. Anyone can do that. Absolutely anyone. So when you've been doing it for 6 months, and I'm like, that's nice, Cam, but when you come back to me and like, we spoke 2 years ago, well, I'm still doing it, and now I'm crushing it.
Still the same height, but...
but now I'm crushing it, and you've proved to me that you've been consistent, and you're going somewhere, and you've got a message, because if you didn't have a powerful message, people wouldn't keep listening to you, and you wouldn't keep getting new followers. So when someone young comes up to me, and they're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I had a perfect example the other day. I was speaking down the road at the Colchester Institute, and this girl come up to me and she's like, I'm really motivated, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I got a good energy from this girl. So I was like, I'm going to give you a little chance. She was looking for some work. She wanted to do some stuff. So I set her up some stuff. We started to have a lot of chats. And a week in, she was like, nah, this isn't for me.
Okay.
And it was, again, another example of like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I want to do this. I'm like, all right, I'll give you a chance. And then a week later, oh, that's not for me. And it's like anyone can say stuff. Anyone can start to do stuff. But when you've been doing something for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, now you're onto something. Now people are going to take you seriously. Now I'll take you seriously. And that was when we had our first proper interaction, however long ago. I'm like, this guy's got some cool stuff. I'll listen now.
And how many episodes do you have again?
I now have about 390, I think.
390 episodes. That's incredible. And it's funny because obviously since starting this podcast, the first thing I did then was kind of reach out to people I know who might be willing to do it, like yourself, other people I've had on the podcast already, people who have an incredible story. But then off the back of that, obviously I'm still looking for people who have been doing what they've been doing for years and they're doing really well. It's the Dreams to Reality podcast at the end of the day. And people who's probably going to listen and watch this. But I have people coming out, oh, if you're looking for guests on your podcast, I'd be happy to come on. And I'm like, you're not, does that make sense? It's you're not really the person I'm looking for. I'm not saying you're not doing anything well, but you're just not the right fit for what I need right now, essentially. So one, I kind of feel bad about that. But then also somebody said to me, oh, you reached out to this person, that person. But actually I have. And some of them said they're not interested yet, or they just won't respond. You probably had it early on. And someone was like, oh, when it gets big, forget about them then. They've lost their opportunity. And I said, well, actually they haven't. I said, you have to put it in perspective. It's got to be worth their while at the end of the day. Let's be honest, you coming on this podcast now, obviously we got a good friendship, but you're still doing me a favour at the end of the day. You could be doing anything. You've got so many businesses, but right now, because it's so early days, you're doing me a favour. And once it does get big, I'll reach out to those same people and say, listen, I've had this guest on, this guest on, this guest on. Here are the numbers. Will you come on? Instead of me being so arrogant up my own ass, essentially, and put my insecurities to the side, I want to reach out to those people again. Just because they said no now doesn't mean they're going to say no in 6 months. But our egos and stuff like that get in the way. Have you experienced that yet? Because right now, I feel like I've been through it by reaching out to people like you 4 years ago. So I'm past that and I understand it now.
So 2 things here.
I'm just rambling a little bit. But
everyone needs to have the confidence in their ability to ask the question and handle rejection, because it's going to happen.
Say that
in
again.
life.
Say that again.
You need to get used to rejection. Like if you go into a bar and you're like, I'm single, I want a girlfriend.
It's a numbers game, baby.
It's a numbers game. There's 100 women in that bar. 10 will be interested or find you attractive. 5 will be interested in having a chat. 3 will be interested in a drink. 2 maybe want to take it further. It's a numbers game. So we do have to get used to handling rejection and people saying no. The thing that we need to do is make what we're offering so compelling that the other person can't say no. So when you first reached out to me, it was very easy for me to say no, because you were just like, hey, I'm Cam, do a bit of speaking.
It's true.
And then I was interested, so I started to follow you. And then you started to put out such good content of you speaking and your message.
I think it was on LinkedIn where I couldn't say no, because nobody's really active on LinkedIn like that, I guess. Some people are, but I put a quality video, if we say so myself, onto LinkedIn, and because I guess it's not as crowded, it caught your attention, whether it's for 30 seconds or a minute, and then that's when you messaged on there. I was like, wow! I was like, Ben just responded to my video. We made it, baby! But I was buzzing, and that was just a sign of progression. Like, do you know what? Even if he doesn't get back to the message I'm about to send him and the 10 messages he's got coming into his inbox, he's paid attention, he likes the video. That's progress. One is because he's been consistent for so long and doing so well. I don't care about money, essentially. I don't care about any of that. Well, I just care about consistency and growing. And every day, every year, you're growing, you're improving. Ups and downs. The downs, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, you're consistent. When you've done it, it was just a sign like, Cam, just keep going. keep going. And then it was funny enough, obviously I said, where do you live? And he was like, Suffolk, postcode, nah. I was like, listen, I'm in your area in about a month. Can we catch up? And he was like, yeah, just swing by and we'll catch up. And just even that conversation then, I know I'm talking a lot now, but normally when you're talking, I just listen because I know you've been through a similar situation to what I'm going through. And I know I can learn from that. So I don't really know what point I'm making, but it's just about consistency. And when people reach out to you, it's not just about the words, it's about action, I guess.
So if we look at anyone that's listening, watching to this, that wants to create more action, what are you working towards? So whether you're single and you're looking for a girlfriend, whether you're looking for a job or boyfriend, sorry, I'm talking from my own manliness. So whether you're looking for a partner, whether you're looking to improve your career, whether you're looking to improve, whatever it is, like, are you putting yourself in the best possible position that person cannot say no? So if we look at a CV, what's on your CV right now? You might have a couple of GCSEs, you might have a degree.
Do you have a CV?
Is that it? Yeah, I do have a CV.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. I've probably used it like twice in the last 10 years because I'm self-employed and it kind of doesn't really matter. But when you look at that CV and you compare it against 10 other candidates, well, how do you stack up? So where's your experience? Where's your other qualifications? What books are you reading? What are you inspired by? What are your hobbies? Like, every employer or recruiter wants to know this kind of stuff because they want to know, like, a bit under the skin. Everyone's got qualifications, great. But what separates you?
You can lie about your qualifications on
You can. You can. A lot of the time an employer won't go, oh, can you show me proof of
your GCSE certificate?
Exactly.
It's true. Don't do that, by the way.
So whatever you're trying to work through in life,
Unless you really have to.
It's about saying, have I done enough?
Yeah.
And if you haven't done enough, then you have to accept personal responsibility that you could have done more, and you can't be upset at the outcome.
And rejection.
And you can't be upset at being rejected.
Okay, so how many businesses do you have now? We talked a bit about podcasts.
3.
So what are they?
The BTN Academy, which is a nutrition education company. So we take people and we essentially turn them into nutrition coaches so they can coach other people. We have Awesome Supplements, which is an amazing supplement company, if I don't say so myself.
Pretty awesome.
And then we kind of have my work, speaking, the podcast,
so your personal
that kind
brand.
of thing.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
My personal brand.
Does it all fall under one umbrella, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. So the nutrition came first, did it? Well, your brand and the nutrition came first.
Yeah, nutrition coaching came first online, and then that spawned into the education and the academy, and then that spawned into the supplement line and a different form of personal coaching, yeah.
Okay, because obviously we can't be here all day, and I know we could quite easily do that. What podcast was it which shocked everybody, and you said you basically had a bad year and you nearly became bankrupt? And when I listened to that, everything dropped even for me. I was like, wow, this guy, just for how transparent you just was to everybody. You didn't have to be, but you were so transparent. Which year was that when you nearly became bankrupt?
It was 2017.
2017. And was Awesome Supplements here then? Or was it starting off?
Yeah.
How did you nearly become bankrupt? How did it get to that point? Because I know I've done it before. Even Gadget Line, we've spoken about it before. Sometimes you just become ignorant to it. You put kind of a smoke over it or whatever, and you don't really look at it, even if you know there's a problem there, or you completely not aware. I don't know. How did that come about? And was it a big decision for you to talk about it publicly? And just talk to me about it.
So I suppose there's loads of reasons. You'd have to look at. There was just so much that went on. So when I talked about consistency, this is where I went wrong. So when you're consistent with something, over time you work out how to get the job done. So when I started my business, there's loads of problems along the journey that you have to solve in a business. It's like, if you're not comfortable solving problems, I'd say don't get into business, because you're going to be faced with one literally like every day, every week. And I started to question myself. So I started to build quite a big business, and I started to be like, oh God, this is getting a bit scary. The risk is getting bigger, more employees, all that kind of stuff. And I started to not trust myself as much. And I was like, okay, I've never built a business this big. Do I know how to do it? And there was loads of work coming in and we almost couldn't handle it. And, things were getting really scatty. And I made a lot of really quick decisions like, okay, right, I need someone to help me build this thing. Like I need someone that's been in a bigger business. And I made a decision far too quickly and didn't go through the process I spoke about earlier of recruiting the right person into my business. So I brought a person into my business and culturally they were totally the wrong fit for my business. And over time they just self-imploded that business, and I didn't spend enough time and I wasn't realistic with myself and I didn't take full ownership to really look at those problems. And because sometimes when you're not aware of what's in front of you, you kind of maybe put the bad stuff to the side and think, oh, is this what it takes to grow a business? Perhaps we do have to do this. So it's like being in a relationship and like you discard all the bad bits of your relationship because you're like, oh, perhaps this is what it takes to own a house and be in love and have a kid and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, actually,
a baby would fix it. Marriage would fix it.
Yeah.
But then
if the problems are there and you can't be honest with yourself and why the problems exist, then you can't take that step. It's not going to fix it. It's going to lead to more pain down the line because you're going to have more baggage to solve.
That's true.
And it left me, because I didn't front up and didn't see these issues, it left me with a huge amount of baggage. So even when I realised there was a problem, I spent the whole of 2017 facing bankruptcy trying to fix it. And it's not something that I could just, quickly hustle for 10 days and fix. I had contracts that needed to be paid. I had staff that needed to be paid. I had stock sitting in a warehouse. Like there was loads of stuff that I couldn't just say, oh, we're no longer paying for that. So I had to fight tooth and nail to kind of get through that year, clear all the contracts, clear all the costs. So it was a combination of me not trusting myself, which was a shame because I should have done, because I would have worked it out. It would have just taken a little bit more time.
I guess up until that point, you did trust yourself.
I had worked out, I had trust myself. But it was almost like I was reading about being a bigger business owner and reading about what's next, and you kind of read about company culture and structure and all this kind of stuff, and we were transitioning there, and I thought, well, I don't know how to do that stuff, so why don't I get someone in to do it? And they just did it all wrong, essentially, and I wasn't strong enough, or maybe didn't know enough, or maybe wasn't being honest with myself to really go back and critique those decisions that we were making. And we were in a fairly good cash position at the time, so I thought, well, it doesn't matter if we make a few mistakes here because we're in a fairly decent cash position. Like, don't sweat it, you've got to invest to recoup the benefits in the future. But we ended up just literally hemorrhaging money, like month on month for ages. So yeah, it was tough year, in short.
At what moment did you realise the oh shit moment?
Well, I had no money left. My account manager rang me and she was like, oh, I don't want to worry you, but like, I don't have any money to pay the wages. And I was like, oh, how did that happen? And because I left someone else in charge of the money, and that was when I had to get stuck back into our financials, stuck back what was into happening at a cultural level in my team. And then I had to kind of backtrack and like almost re-educate myself on several areas of the business that weren't going well. Because they needed more control, they needed input. So that's what held me back as well, because I had to go back into the business.
Wow.
So it was tough. But it's made me better at what I do now. Like, I will not make those same mistakes again. Now where my business is, in essence, we're moving into a riskier position. We're spending more. We're doing lots of different things. But I don't feel risky because I've taken the time to do all the right kind of due diligence before we enter into these different things that we're doing.
How did you get through it, though? So did you ever consider quitting? Did you ever consider becoming bankrupt?
Did I
on a lonely night here in your beautiful cottage, you sat on your sofa maybe with your wife, probably cried, I don't know, and you just thought, I can't do it anymore? Did you just think...
I never got to that point. I did think about literally cutting like every semblance of dead wood in the business, like, oh, that product's not selling, or we're not doing that, and like literally go into like me being back a coach again. Almost back to where it started, because I knew it worked and I knew I could manage it by myself.
That's another thing about character though, and your skill and your talent. So I talk about this all the time in many things I do. Just say the worst case scenario happens. One thing what people can't take away is what you know, your character, how you show up every day. So say everything failed. You know at least one thing you can coach.
Yep.
You have the knowledge. You know how to do it because you've done it. Which I think is another reason. The reason why I share that is people need to know it's about your character. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to learn? What are you willing to create? Because if shit does hit the fan, how are you going to bounce back from that? And so be it. If you had to shut everything down, obviously you didn't. Just say it was a little bit worse and you had to cut off all the dead wood. At least you know you got that. You're still the person you was, you're more knowledgeable, you've went through that experience, and you know at least one day you will bounce back, even if it does take years. Obviously you didn't do that, but I'm just trying to talk about the importance of character and all of those different things there.
And the importance of forming habits. Like when I got to that point in time, I'd developed the habit that I'd get up at pretty much 5 a.m. most days, and I'd get to work and I'd do the most important job of the day, and I'd make the right contacts, and I'd develop whatever I needed to develop. So at that point in time, you don't sort of crawl up into a ball and go, oh, I'm going to feel sorry for myself and oh, the world's so bad and all that kind of stuff, because my habit was get up and do the work. So you stay in that pattern. You just have to think more critically. You have to do different work. You have to prioritize differently. And then you obviously need a support network. So it made me a lot stronger in my relationship with my wife, because we started supporting each other a lot more. I started telling her a lot more things. And the reality is my wife's very business savvy. Like she's good with people, and she helped me work through some really key stuff.
So obviously it was a wide range of different things how that happened, but then it's also kind of a sense that a bad egg it played a big part in that whole year or leading up to that year.
Yeah.
And then we talked already today about environment. You talked just about your wife and how that helped. What about your family? What about other people in the business? Was it a difficult time for everybody, or did everybody come together? Like how was that? How was it coming to work, putting on a brave face and basically fighting the everyday challenge you was fighting? Did you tell people it's all going to be okay, even though you're thinking to yourself it's not? Or like what? I'm just trying to... sorry if my question's not too specific, but I'm just trying to understand your process you went through, because it's not just like if my business failed... Okay, I got an apprentice, I got an office and stuff, but you did have quite a lot of overheads. You did have more pressure. You had people in your programs. People like myself looked up to you. You had people who was inspired by you in your journey. Was it just a brave face situation, or did you go and say, listen guys, it's not good. We need everyone to come together and come out the other end? What did you do?
Yeah, so our business, we're spending anywhere from 50 to 70 grand a month. So that's a lot of overhead to cover. Like we need to cover that every month before, we even break even. I went through 50 to 70 grand a month. Oh, so, God. But that's just bigger business.
Yeah,
like you go to an even bigger business and they're spending $1 million a month. So it's relative, man.
I read, the Shoe Dog, the Nike.
Yeah, Phil Knight.
Book, and it's like turnover was 14 million a year, and he's still having cash flow issues.
Yeah,
and it's nuts, and that people don't understand that.
Yeah, people look at business like, they've got all this coming in. Yeah, what's going out, mate? Like,
I'm in my overdraft, kid.
Yeah, I'm on the credit card. So I involved very few people in the recovery process. So I involved my wife. I involved my mum because she follows what I do and she loves me and she's always very interested. Involved my brother and my staff members.
Was your brother working for you at the time?
Yeah, has been for many years now. And that was it. And the reason why that was it is because I didn't need anyone else's sympathy.
No.
I didn't want to go to a party and people to be like, oh, how's it going being nearly bankrupt? Like, have you had a shit week and stuff? And I'm like, you don't want those conversations. You want to forget about it for an evening and then move on. So I literally had like 3, 4, 5 people that knew, and that was it. And the reason why that's important is because I don't want to have the same conversation 10 times a day, 10 times a week. I'm wasting time. I want to go to work. I want to hustle for 10 hours a day. I want to work towards fixing the problem. And then when I turn off my phone or decide that I'm not working anymore, I want to live my life like a normal person. But everyone, quite often wants to share all their problems with the world. But the problem is you've got to live in that problem every moment of the day.
Yeah.
If you've got problems at work, don't bring them home. Forget about them. Deal with them the next day. Don't live in that cycle every day, because otherwise you're not ever re-inspired about your environment. So I might have a really crap day at work, but I might go out with my mates, have a great evening, relax, have a beer, makes me feel better. So when I wake up the next day, I'm in a good place to start work again, rather than just almost always living in this pain. So I made it a priority for me to control that environment so I could perform at my best.
Correct me if I'm wrong, through that year of 2017, did you post anything about it, or did you just
Never.
do the podcast, what
Never.
you did at the end of the year?
Yeah, just
when it was all somewhat all sorted.
That was the first time anyone knew anything was wrong. There was a couple of people that were close to me that they turned up to an event and kind of went, "You were a bit different. You were a bit distant. I was just getting this vibe." And when I did the podcast, a lot of people reached out to me and went, "Shit, that's why you were kind of off. I had no idea that was going through, your head." Because I probably wasn't fully present with that person, because there was something fairly serious happening in my life. But yeah, again, it's like, if I want to sit on Facebook and moan about all the stuff that's happening in my life. Oh, this has happened. I've just had to pay this bill. This guy screwed me over. What that does is it robs more time and energy out of my life to solving the problem. Because you're going to get all these comments on social media. I'm going to get all these notifications on my phone. I'm going to get calls from people going, "Oh, are you all right?" That post on Facebook has now robbed 3 hours of my life that I could have used to solving the problem. So sometimes you just got to turn off the world, deal with your own problem, and do the work.
So was it hard when you was going through? You said there was only say a maximum of 5 people who knew what you was going through. Just say that for now. Was it hard then, putting on a brave face, being consistent still? Was you still post? Obviously, you said you're still doing your podcast, still doing the social media stuff.
Yep, business as usual.
Was it hard to put a social media post up, knowing damn well this post ain't gonna help me get the 50-70 grand, or did it? Or in your head, was it still pretty important? Does that kind of make sense? Because I guess one post over isn't going to change your life, but I guess 100 posts might. I don't know, whatever, as an example. But was it hard finding the motivation to do the small, consistent things you've been so great at over the years, especially when basically you're in shit?
The hardest thing was losing my creativity. So creativity is the most important asset of any successful person, because it allows you to see solutions to problems, allows you to engage with people in the right way. And when you've got big problems breathing down your neck, whether they're financial, relationship, it robs all your creativity because your focus goes all in on that problem. So I had to perform business as usual. That means do my podcast, speak on social media, do all of that kind of stuff. But the problem is all of that stuff started to take a real slow decline because I wasn't innovating on myself. I wasn't becoming a better human being. And that's why people follow me, because they tend to like what I'm saying. They follow me for nutrition advice, inspiration, all that kind of stuff. So if that's going down because my creativity is going down, now my business is suffering. So that was the hardest thing. My business was imploding from the inside, and then from the outside it was starting to crumble because I had a lack of creativity. So I'm sitting here trying to record the podcast or do the social media post, but in the back of my mind I'm like, God, I wish I could just get this done quickly, because I've got to go back and number crunch. Or got to go back and do something that I kind of don't want to do and I'm not very skilled at, but the business needs it. So that was the hardest thing.
Wow. Okay, so then early 2018, how did you feel? You released the podcast, you told all your loyal fans, people who are following you, what's up, what's happened, you're over it, you went through that. How was 2018 for you? Much better.
It still took me a long time to get to the place that I wanted to get to. So would
you say you're there now, or would you say you're still
literally the last 10 days I'm in the best business position I've ever been in my life.
Preach! Tell them again!
today is a good day. This week is a good day, and it's
you're
because
seeing Cam Parker, the tallest motivational speaker in the game,
tallest,
sexiest. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Follow me.
So it took me a lot longer because the problem is I'd poisoned the environment. So while we created the problem, when we had to rescue the problem and all kind of, all hands to the pump and do everything we needed to, there was still this culture that was there because there's only so much time in the day to solve all your problems.
Did you get rid of a few bad eggs in 2017?
One key one.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got to 2018 and it's like, right, we've recovered, we're financially secure, we've paid all our debts. Now we need to basically go back to the beginning
Start
of 2016 and learn how to build a business again. So 2017 was recovery. 2018 was learning how to behave as a bigger business, work as a team, improve our systems, improve our products, improve our service. So I basically held myself back for 2 years through poor decision making.
You did hold yourself back for 2 years, but you kind of didn't as well. What you went through...
I didn't.
Yeah,
so depends how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful of the skills that I now have because I didn't let it crush me.
But you had to go through a lot of pain to get through it.
Yeah. And there was some tears and there was a lot of uncomfortable weeks and there was a lot of hard work. There was a lot of 18-hour days. But the reality was I knew... So it's about projecting. It's like if I quit now... what happens? Well, I go back 7 years. So if I knuckle down, I can go back 2 years, but beyond that, I'll be in the best position in my life I've ever been in, which is where I'm sitting right now. I'm in a really good place. So people have to ask themselves, where are you at right now? Are you willing to go through 2 years of crap stuff, of pain, of consistency, of hard work to get to that light? That's the reality of every business owner. You go and read a book of someone that's been successful and you'll see pain, injury, heartache, blood, sweat, tears. But no, everyone just looks at the social media highlight, the book cover of them celebrating, the gold medal. Well, you got to look at all that background and you got to ask yourself, are you willing to go through all of that stuff to get out to the other end? And the reality was I was ready for it. I'd already been through hard years. The first 3 years of my business were me writing blogs, filming videos, doing social media posts with no one listening, no one hitting like. And then it was like the 2.5 year mark where people started to watch my videos and like my posts. And then my business really started to snowball. But I had like 2.5 years in the dark. Like, is anyone reading this blog? I hope so. I'll keep going because I quite enjoy it. Yeah,
that's amazing. So how did following Cameron Parker inspire you? Right, so you're in a fantastic position now. We talk about awesome supplements, and I have to be honest with you. I said it here. I wouldn't give you any compliment if I didn't mean it. But your supplement company is really good. I've been through the gym for many years, taken many different products, different proteins. Never really been a fan of pre-workout really, but I've done it before, the creatine, but also at the same time, as far as supplements, I never really knew how to take it. Never really knew how to take it, or when I should take it, or the knowledge behind it. But that's another reason why I followed you anyway. But then I knew at the back of my head, I knew a lot of these supplements are full of a lot of crap at the same time. A huge amount of crap. Let's be honest, right? Yep. And
much more profitable.
Yeah, of course. And one thing what I liked about Awesome Supplements is it was connected to you. And I literally thought to myself, we said it earlier, it's like a song. If it's good enough for you, it was good enough for me. And I knew you wouldn't, because of your morals, because of what you stand for. I knew it was going to be a good, healthy product to have. So I have to give you a compliment, and your team, your brother, and everybody around you for that. And I look at it and I think it's incredible. That's amazing. And talking about money again, talking about business again, you said on your most recent podcast, thank you, my radio, you said in your most recent one, I don't know if it's your most recent one, but one recently, that Awesome Supplements haven't turned over a profit yet. Is that correct? Am I
correct? Yeah.
Okay, so how do you... That is common in the business world.
Yeah, huge.
Very common.
Yeah. Probably even more common now than it used to be, because the business environment has changed a lot. The business world, technology, software is moving very, very quickly. And that means sometimes your time to scale with your opportunity in the marketplace is shortened. So if you look at industry a long time ago, there was far less innovation. So you could kind of take that time to make a few mistakes, get profit in the bank, invest in a new product line, do some consumer market research, yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but sometimes in the modern world, because industry is moving so fast, you've now maybe got a year to make it instead of 3 years. So you see a lot of companies taking on big investment to try and reduce that window of how quickly they can get to market and win. So if you look at, Silicon Valley, if you look at the activity there, all these apps that are coming out, technologies, they'll quite often get big amounts of money in, hire the best talent, build a bit of software, massive marketing push, hopefully succeed in the marketplace. So with Awesome Supplements, I have to accept that with a product line, it's not like a service. A service, like you and me, we do speaking. So I get a gig, and I go out and I deliver for a day and I get paid for that day or that hour or whatever. With a product, I need to buy, let's say, 1,000 units in stock.
You have to put money into it.
Just sits there, does nothing apart from gather dust. And do you know what? It costs money to sit there in storage fees. And then I've got software fees on top of that. I've got a website, I've got marketing, I've got staff. So it takes a lot of risk to build a product line. And, I probably made... I don't know if it was the right decision or not, but with my position in the industry, I felt I kind of had to go big or go home, because there's so much competition in the supplement space. I didn't want to be like, hey, I've brought out a whey protein, and people are like, yeah, that's great. There's whey protein everywhere. What's the point of me buying protein off you?
But with just your face on it, essentially.
Well, no, it's the reason why I thought like that.
Yeah.
Let me finish, Cal.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry, Ben.
It's like going to, I could sit here and say, Cam, you should go to the butcher's and do your meat shop, and you might go, do you know what? I know that's the ideal, and I'd like to do that, but it's really inconvenient. I just want to go to the supermarket and buy it all. And I thought, well, Cam, you're not going to go to my website and buy a tub of whey protein, but then go to another company and buy 3 other products.
Okay.
You're just not going to spend that money. It costs you more. So I kind of thought, right, I need a solution as a company that provides the bulk of what most people need. So when they log on to Awesome Supplements, they're like, hey, yeah, sweet. I can get my whey protein, I can get my creatine, I can get my fish oil, job done. Awesome. And that's why I made the decision to go a lot bigger. So it took a lot more investment, tons more investment, because I had to buy 9 product lines, maybe 1,000 units of each to enter into the marketplace. So it was a lot riskier, but it was a decision that I made, and I felt it was the right decision at the time. And I still probably think it was the right decision.
Amazing. Can you just clear something up for me?
Yep.
Should I be taking creatine?
It depends.
What is creatine? I've heard so many different people talking about creatine. I don't know whether you need it. If somebody's that. I imagine if I think that, there's probably a lot of people who also think that. Should we be taking creatine? What's it for? What's the benefits? And because, say, whether it's an ignorant opinion already, I've heard that creatine makes you stronger, but it's also a lot of water retention, so you basically look bloated all the time. They're maybe the misconceptions that I have of creatine. Yep. Are they accurate? Are they not? Should a general gym user be on creatine? I don't know.
So let's keep it simple, because otherwise, people can go and do their own research and reading. Will it make you retain water? Yes. But that's not a bad thing, because it's allowing you to store more creatine and water and glycogen in the body. So it's a good thing, because if you want to perform longer, you want to be stronger, you want to do more physically, your body needs a greater store of the tools and substrates to do that thing. So that's why we end up storing more. So that's why, for example, a runner might do a carb loading approach because they want more in the muscle to be able to do more with. So we want more storage to perform better. So if you play sport or you hit the gym and you do weightlifting or HIIT training or anything, chances are creatine is going to be beneficial because it creates more ATP in the muscle, which allows you to perform more explosively, repeatedly over time. So for me, I take creatine because I lift weights and I play rugby. You hit the gym, so it'd probably be beneficial that you take creatine.
Can you still look lean on creatine?
Yes, because the water is largely being retained in the muscle tissue, not the fat tissue. If you look fat, it's because you're fat. Sorry.
So that's it, guys. You're fat. You're fat.
Well, that's the reality. Like, people can stand there and go, you might have water retention, and it might be that you have 3 or 4 pounds of water retention, but for most people, you're not going to see that different. If you're really lean, let's say you're like 7, 8, 9, 10% body fat, and you gain 3 pounds of water, you will see that physical difference because you're that lean. But if you're not leaner than like 12, 13, 14% body fat, you're probably not going to see that change because you're just not lean enough to see it. You don't have that much muscle definition anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
So do you cycle creatine?
No.
No, you just...
No. There's no reason to cycle it. You can take it. I stop taking it when I go on holiday. Just have a natural break. I do that with pretty much all my supplements because it's just one less thing to think about.
Yeah.
But in my normal routine, when I'm training, I'm at home, always take creatine, always take things like fish oils and stuff. Yeah.
So when's it going to start working for you? What's next for Awesome Supplements, man? What's next for Ben Coomber? What's next for Awesome Supplements? What you got planned? You said you're in a fantastic business position. I quite know, obviously, your family a little bit now anyway from coming here quite often. You seem in a really, really good place. It's not just for the camera. You really seem in a good place. What's next? 2019, what can we expect?
What's next for me is essentially next level. I would say my work is fairly well known in the more educated, probably slightly more hardcore fitness market, like the people that are constantly trying to learn and do things. And I'm going to try and move my work into the mainstream more. So my podcast is now part of Global Radio, which is a huge radio station. You know, they own a corner of Leicester Square. They own Capital Radio, Heart Radio. So I'm trying to push my podcast a lot more into being a really well-known product.
Do you have to change your angle a little bit with that, or is it?
Not really, but it means that I've taken advertisers on board. And
I've heard that on the podcast. Is that the same?
Yeah, that's it. It means it facilitates...
BMW, buy one now. Where's Ben gone?
We're going to try and turn that into a TV show. So we're now trying to bring partners on board to fund that because it costs significant amounts of money. I'm now going to try and write a book that will go into the mainstream. So we're working on getting a publisher.
What about?
Basically, it will be around diet and nutrition and leading an awesome life. Don't want to drop the title of the book yet. Someone might try and poop on my parade. People love doing that. Supplement line, we're going to try and we're taking on potentially some investment. We're going to try and go big. We're going to try and go international with the supplements. We're going to try and enter into the convenience market by we've been working on a protein bar for a long time. We're working on energy bars, a couple of drinks products. So
energy drinks,
there's a lot of cool stuff happening.
Okay,
but I'm going big.
You're going big. Go big or go home.
Yeah,
well, you're already home, so
yeah,
going big's your only option. You said a lot of people wanted to kind of shit on your parade.
Yeah,
I don't know names, but
don't give them the airtime.
Do you experience a lot of haters online? Because just looking around, like your community, what I see on your reactions you get, everything's positive. I don't think there's anything I could look at what you do and hate on it. Even if I wanted to, I just feel like I must be a bit of an idiot to just try and, I don't know. Do you experience haters? Somebody actually asked me today, somebody gets on them all the time on their profile, how do you deal with it? And I don't really know how to deal with it, essentially. I only know through progress and just growth and just focus on that. Because for me, it's like haters or the negativity side of things. I'm not trying to be positive or overly cliche, but it's a sign of bullying for me. Not everyone, but a lot of, unless it was a real valuable opinion and there was a lot of truth to what they were saying, and I was like, actually I could apply that, thank you for that feedback. But then if somebody's actively going out there and hating on every post, even disliking every YouTube video you put out there, talking bad about your name in any single conversation they can. How do you deal with that? And have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I've dealt with that extensively, and it's gotten to a point where it's been quite serious, and we've had to try and involve external parties and spend money on the process and stuff. First and foremost, you have to define whether it is a genuine hate from that person on you to try and kind of bring you down in some respect or affect your business. And the key piece of consistent hate that I experienced in 2016, 2017
around the same time.
And it compounded the problem a lot. It was very difficult, and that was one of the things that contributed to us being in a very difficult financial position as well. But anyway, when this happens, you have to define if it's legitimate hate or there's some truth to it, or maybe the way that you're delivering information. So there's nothing wrong with you putting information out there and polarizing opinion. That's absolutely fine. People do that every day. In fact, people would probably say it's a good, it's a good business move. Like you want to get people into your product.
But there's a line, surely.
There is a line. So when you have to kind of deal with haters, you have to stand back and again spend a bit of time with yourself and say, like, why am I doing this? What is this person's motive? So when I look at a hater, and I can see this because I've been dealing with someone this week that would fit into that bracket. Why is that person doing something? Now, I know this person. I've met them several times. They've been to my seminars. I know what they're about. I know how they think. I don't feel he's hating on me. I know that person is projecting onto the world because this person is angry. They're angry at themselves. They're angry at the decisions they've made. They're angry at the stuff other people are doing that they're not doing, that they didn't have the self-discipline and the will to make those decisions. So quite often, someone will hate to project what they believe on the world. So it's why it's important to stand back and see what this person's saying, what their motives are, whether there's any truth in it, what their background is. Because a lot of people, like, let's look at the nutrition space. I might talk about vegan nutrition. The hate that I might get is from the ethical environment of how veganism has been built. So we don't agree with the slaughter of animals, and that's absolutely fine. But what that will create is a lot of hate on some environments because they have such a strong belief that animals wouldn't be killed that if they see you eating a steak, they really want to project their point of view on you to say, you're a bad person. And they want other people to see that because they want other people to come in on their environment, because they believe so strongly. So even in that environment, if I put a post out and say, right, I'm going to talk about vegan nutrition, and someone starts to comment on and it starts to get a little bit heated, I have to stand back and say, why is that person hating on this post? And it might be that actually, while that post has angered them and they've got their reasons, that I've worded it in a way that's upset them. And I could have worded it slightly different. So I always think it's important to look at the hate and why it's happening, because there's probably always some truth in it, and we have to accept that. And not many people are strong enough to accept that, but we also have to understand where that person's coming from. Yeah.
That's also true for life, whether you're running a business, whether you're in a particular industry, it's just life as well. We all obviously all experience that. I do actually have a question from a guy called Paul Sloggett from Instagram, and
he's got a great brand opportunity there. Sloggett. Love that.
And yeah, so he's a big fan of you, but let's be honest about the fitness industry, whether it's nutrition, whether it's fitness, there's a lot of people out there giving a lot of fake information or just something. Say some bodybuilder who says, buy my program for £50, and essentially you'll look like me. But one big key thing they're missing out is what else they're doing behind the scenes, say illegally. So Paul Sloggett question was, do qualifications matter in the fitness and nutrition industry? And has Ben ever been asked to prove his qualifications?
I've probably had to prove my qualifications on like 2 or 3 occasions in like the last 7 or 8 years. So not often. Not many people are that concerned about it. I do think qualifications are important because you have to understand, the basics of your job. Like if I didn't go and do a level 3 personal training course, like I wouldn't understand the basics of human movement and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So you do need it to a degree. it's also going to allow you to open up certain demographics and markets for your work. So if I stopped at being a level 3 personal trainer and I wanted to coach people on, mindset issues, movement issues, you've got to go and get more qualifications. You can't just enter into those markets. I'm going to start treating you for your back pain. What are your qualifications? You need those qualifications. Because also you need to be insured against your work.
That's true.
Can't try and fix your back pain if I'm not insured to fix your back pain, because you could sue me and you'd be right to sue me. So I do think it's important to get those qualifications. But I do think in any career path, it's then about you looking to develop yourself on every level. So for me to be the best nutrition coach, I need to understand nutrition. But then I also need to understand behavior change and how situations affect different people, because the information that I try and coach them on might be affected by their environment, their financial situation, how they feel about things. So, a personal training qualification is literally the basic level. And then you've got to learn business. You've then got to learn behavior change. You've then got to maybe learn movement, then the practices of S&C and how that fits into things. Your qualification is quite often your starting point for your career.
Okay, perfect. I'm not going to drag this on much longer, but what does success look like to you, Ben?
It's always,
for you personally.
Yeah, it's always a feeling. So right now in this moment, I feel successful. That's it. I've got a roof over my house. I've got a lovely home. I've got a lovely wife. I've got a car on the drive that works. I have a good friendship group. I'm financially secure. I'm emotionally secure. I feel successful.
Up you haters. What are you saying?
But it's not attached to anything particular financially. I know that I need to earn a certain amount to feel that I'm safe and secure to provide for the roof over my head and all the rest of it. So it does have a financial tie, but it is a feeling. And I know that feeling over time will be attached to me moving forward. I constantly like to feel like I'm developing myself, learning new stuff every day, challenging myself, thinking of new ideas. I'll then keep staying successful. But ultimately, it's a feeling.
And you said in one of your most recent podcasts as well that you might be thinking about bringing a baby into the world later on this year or early next year. Yep. Is that a big step for you? How is that? Is that something you're really looking forward to? Because obviously a lot of times when people have babies, they don't really plan it, but you've really took the conscious decision that you want to set things up, you want to have things ready. Talk to me.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me about kids, I would probably have said, I'm not ready. And everyone's reaction is, you're never ready.
You're never ready.
And actually, I disagree with that. Because right now, sitting here, I would say we're ready. We're ready financially. We're ready in our business. We're ready emotionally because we've done the work in our relationship. If I walked away from my business today and left for a month, it would be fine. Business would run. I'd still get my salary, all the rest of it. So am I ready to have a child? Yes, I'm ready. But I've spent the last 14 years putting myself into that position to be ready.
Wow.
And that's really hard.
That is hard.
To have that conversation with other people, because most people would say, straight away you'll be like, you're lucky, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, no, I was the guy, let's be honest, as a kid, how many people go out and get a girl pregnant after a night out? Well, I would be the guy that would go out.
Done it a couple times. No, I'm joking.
I would be the guy that would go out, and you advise.
Gadget line definitely has.
But our school advises this: if you're going to go out and you're single, go out with a condom.
Yeah.
It sounds really ridiculous as a kid, but I did do that. Why? Because I didn't want to end up with a child at the age of 19, 20, 21. That wasn't the path that my life was going on. So I made sure I put all these blockers in the way that made me not make stupid decisions.
No, that's very true. Very true. And I was similar. I used to pretend like I was the top dog out, with all the girls, but I wasn't. I just pretended I was. I was terrified. I was literally terrified. I always remember my dad saying, listen, if a girl comes back here, knocks on the door pregnant, you better get a one-way ticket to Fiji and change your name. Mm-hmm. Because I'm breaking your legs. And that kind of stuck with me in a way. It's not the best way of parenting, of course.
Yeah.
But it always scared me, even the idea of, catching something, and just all of that just scared me. So for me, once I knew what I wanted to do, I was willing to protect that at any cost, and that meant not going out and partying all the time, splashing loads of money on nothing, sleeping around, because I knew that wasn't going to serve me in the long run, and I was scared of what the repercussions could be.
Yep.
So I just thought, all it takes is that one mistake, and then your whole life has changed, essentially. Yep. So now, I'm happily married. Obviously got Lola, and then got another one on the way. Business is finally, I would say, getting there. My perception of things has changed. I feel happy, and I definitely feel like I'm growing. I'm still got a long way to go, but yeah, it's definitely progress, that's for sure.
So what I was doing when I was younger was modelling behaviour. So again, if you don't take time to sit back and ask yourselves, are you happy? Are you going in the right direction? All that kind of stuff, then you don't see the decisions that you have to make to change your life path. So when I left school and I got a job and I did all that kind of stuff, people around me were going out and getting drunk all the time, doing loads of stuff. And I'm not saying I wasn't doing that. I mean, I would still go out,
of course,
3 days a week when I was at uni and get drunk.
Yes, Ben.
Lads
on tour.
But I still got the work done. I still got up and did my uni work and went to work and all that kind of stuff. But when I was younger and I was 20, I saw people around me just sort of getting a job that they weren't happy with, getting a girl unintentionally pregnant, all that kind of stuff, and I saw them all being fairly unhappy with their choices. So I didn't model my behaviour on those people. I said, do you know what? I definitely don't want that.
But it still motivated you in the other way, which isn't bad.
So I then had to go and find other people to model behaviour on. And this is why I always advise young people to read autobiographies of people that inspire them and listen to podcasts like this that inspire you, because it's like they will teach you how to behave in a better way to get a better outcome. Because if you want a better outcome, you've got to find a better way to do things.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. Right, I'm going to wrap this up, but my final question is this. If you could sit down with 3 people, famous people if you want, dead or alive, what 3 people would it be, Ben?
100% Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Just because inspiring life, he's in the fitness industry. I just think he's an absolute legend. Everything that he does is just brilliant. Who else? I always used to say Richard Branson. He inspires me from a business perspective because he will always challenge the status quo, and I like that. To be honest, if you put him in front of me right now, I don't think I'd know what to ask. I think I'd be like, oh, there's almost like so much that you can ask that I wouldn't kind of know where to start. I think I'd probably want to... You probably should have prepared me for this question. It's like when people go, Ben, what's your favourite book? And you're like, oh my God. Like, out of all the books I've read, what's the one book? I do know that
I haven't read yet.
Extreme Ownership. That's probably one of my
Jocko
Willink.
Okay.
It's one of my favourite books.
Is it good? I haven't checked it out yet.
It's incredible. But again, it's a fundamental life skill that you have to take ownership over everything that you do in your life. And when you take 100% extreme ownership, you're able to control all your environments, and I think that's really important. So I've given you 2 people. Let's stick with that. Jamie Oliver.
Okay. He gets a lot of hate.
Yeah, I know he does. He polarizes opinion, but it's because he's honest. And he challenges people. It's like, we are not being good enough parents in a lot of environments. We are not feeding our kids good food. We are not doing the right things in school. And that challenges the status quo. So that's going to make people upset. That's why he polarizes opinion.
So when are you going to get Jamie Oliver on your podcast? Have you?
I've been trying. His PR team said they're up for it. It's just not the right time. So we'll see.
Amazing.
I'll throw a 4th one in there, The Rock. I think he's a legend.
Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Amazing. Agreed. Where can people find you, Ben?
Ben Coomber all over the internet. Go to my website.
Is it a silent B?
No, it's not.
Somebody asked me
Ben Coomber. So yeah, whether your poison is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I'm Ben Coomber. My podcast is Ben Coomber Radio. A few amazing guests have been on. Apparently your podcast was good when you were a guest.
What can I say? The longest podcast you've ever done.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what that means, whether that's a good thing or bad thing.
It was a great podcast. I loved it.
We started with a topic and we just kind of, just like today, we just went off. And I just want to say once again, thank you, Ben. You're a great guy. And I respect you a huge amount for the fact that you are so open and so honest, especially not just in the fitness industry, but in business and in life, because a lot of people are not willing to talk about going credit cards, overdraft, going bankrupt nearly, all of these different things. People want to just show the highlight reel, and you should be very proud of yourself. I know that just sounds horrible, I guess, but you should be proud of yourself to the fact that you are so open, you're willing to be open, and I know in the long term, like it already is, it's just going to serve you and continue to serve you. And I know no doubt 2019 is going to be your big year, another big year, and I know eventually you're going to go exactly and do exactly what you want to do.
Thank you. Awesome.
And one day write a forward for my book if you can.
Yeah.
Only
Awesome.
if it's good.
I'll do it.
All right, brilliant. There you have it, guys. I just want to say a massive thank you again for checking out this podcast. Do follow Ben on all of his social medias. We're looking to grow this podcast and, of course, take over Ben's podcast. That is the goal. That is the dreams to reality. But make sure that you like, comment, share, listen to us as well, and make sure you hit that big red button and subscribe. And until next time, keep working hard and stay hungry.